What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Cedar Flags. It's been quite a while in between episodes here, and in that time, Planet Coaster has received a couple new things. You actually probably just saw a flash of the new things, and that is the DLC. Yes, the first ever DLC for Planet Coaster has come out, and we got the Back to the Future cars and the Munster cars, and there was one other thing that I'm now forgetting, but yes, a couple car sets. So because of that, we are now able to put a few more like decorative pieces around our go-karts. So you just saw me put a few of those in, and now we're going through and doing a little bit of scenery work around with some road signs. Now, I didn't really want to go overboard with the road signs around here, but I did want to kind of have just a little touch of them around here, just to kind of give the riders a little heads up as to what's coming. So yes, that's what we're doing, but we also, I want to talk a little bit about just more of what's going on in Planet Coaster. Before the little hiatus, we actually got billboards and fireworks and all that kind of stuff, and to be honest, we haven't put any of that into the park just yet. I am planning on doing that, though, in probably the next episode, I'd say, hopefully. But yes, we have to create some custom signs, because for all of the coasters, well, for both of the coasters that we have in the park, I've created custom logos for that, and yeah, we have to actually go through and brand those, and I'm really excited for that. And actually, Gravity Mod's already kind of branded. I actually did the logo in the game instead of like in Illustrator like I did for Alpine Spirit. But yeah, we got to put those in, and we can do some pretty cool advertising around the park, like at the main entrance and all that kind of stuff. I was planning on doing that in this episode, but I ended up not for whatever reason. After the long layoff of videos and content, and actually just the layoff of gaming in general, I wanted to just kind of jump back into Planet Coaster and just start building and laying out scenery and doing all that kind of stuff before we went in and I guess went in with the video boards, because I think those could have a little bit of issues. I've heard some weird things about those not like properly coming into the game with the proper color and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna have to work that out as well. But as you're seeing on screen right now, we are actually getting another flat ride just to kind of fill out this little area between the, well, we're connecting the main path of the park, which is the one with those little planters and the tall kind of shrubbery down the main path of the park there. We're connecting that up to the park, or the path rather, that we went all the way around the go-kart area with. So this is filling out this area quite nicely. But yeah, the other thing that Planet Coaster did in the little layoff was they came out with the Cedar Point ride. So we actually have a legitimate, like, licensed ride in the game, which I'm actually kind of want to make like a little video about just on its own, so I may talk about that more in another video. But yeah, the possibilities for this game just broadened really, really wide now. This is pretty cool, and I really hope that Frontier ends up doing more with the licensed kind of stuff. But yeah, that's for another video. I don't think I'm gonna actually put the Steel Vengeance coaster in this playthrough, just because I've kind of wanted to keep everything in this park a little bit more custom. So yeah, that's kind of, I think, everything that's been going on with Planet Coaster. So yeah, we're just going through here, adding a couple things, and really filling out this area between that main path and that connecting path that I was just talking about a little bit earlier. So this kind of gets a little weird in theming. Well, later on I'll talk about that, I guess. But what we're doing is just kind of filling out this flat ride, which is kind of like a Max Air, I believe, from Cedar Point. It's the same kind of ride. I'm not sure what it's exactly called in Planet Coaster, but I will say that I can't ride these rides. These are the worst for me. I can ride the tallest, fastest coasters, the most intense coasters, but anytime anything spins, I just get completely nauseous and I just can't do it. I rode Max Air one time. Luckily, it was later in the day at Cedar Point, and I couldn't do it. It was really bad. I had a headache for the rest of the day. A little disappointing. I thought it wouldn't be that bad because you're swinging and rotating, but nope, it was awful. But anyway, this, yeah, I don't think we should, I don't know. Do you guys think we should name this ride anything specific? I love this ride in particular because it kind of, well, first off, it swings out over the main paths, And I really love that about this, and it's really cool to see that in motion, and you'll see that when we go into the live portion. But the other thing is that at the top of this ride, there's actually the checkered pattern. So in a roundabout way, we actually kind of fit the theming with the rest of the go-kart area. So this corner and this whole kind of go-kart area is all kind of like its own little separate little area, which is themed out, which is pretty cool. It really wasn't something that I did super intentionally, but as it kind of came together, it really needed it. So I really love how this little corner comes about and ends up here. Yeah, it's just a pretty awesome little area. So anyway, we're just putting some of these flags in. It was kind of tedious, and trying to get those to rotate out perfectly. I actually had to use those little virtual guides to kind of try to get those to square up with the little race barriers there. But yeah, in the end, little, I guess, light theming in that area, but it really, I think it pulls the whole area together just because I really hadn't had anything planned for that, and it was just kind of an awkward space, and I was thinking originally of just leaving it as a nature area, but it's just such a prime, like, real estate that we had to do something. And speaking of nature, you just saw me take a lot of the nature out. Well, not a lot, but a few trees out, and I'm just trying to open this up a little bit. Now, way back when we actually built Gravity Mod, someone had requested that we do some more, like, scenic overlook type areas, because we did do a tremendous amount of, like, scenery and just nature work in this area. So yeah, this is kind of what we're trying to accomplish here. So I wanted to build something fairly unique but not over the top. So as this kind of comes together, you'll see that this is going to be a really interesting little building, and it's going to have a nice walkway that you just saw me put under this little scenery piece. I think it's a flat roof, actually. This is going to be pretty cool. We're going to have guests walking up here to get some food, and then they'll be able to come over and, like, sit on the benches that we put in and kind of take a look out over Gravity Mod. So this is more of like a showcase of what we've done with Gravity Mod than the need to put, like, shops in here. So it's kind of weird, though, I feel like, because it's got a very, very strange, like, theming to it. Now, it's sandwiched between this, like, racing zone and Gravity Mod. And Gravity Mod was, like, this really modern kind of building with a lot of, like, smooth lines and stuff. And the racing zone, I don't really know if it has, like, a set theme, but it's got a lot of really bright, vibrant colors, as does Gravity Mod. But this building is more of like I want to say alpine type feel, but I'm not even sure of that. It's more like a modern, just, like, wooden building, and it almost has, like, influences of, like, a pagoda. So I think what's going to be really important in the upcoming episodes is to do something across the main path that also has this kind of feel, this kind of theme, and hopefully that ties this area together, because as I've been saying, it's just kind of a very strange, like, theming feel over here, just because you have those, like, very contrasted, like, smooth modern areas, and then this just big wooden kind of sharp-edged building. So I don't know, I guess you guys can let me know what you think of it. I don't think I'd actually destroy this building. Like I said, it's gonna really depend a lot on what we do with across the way, and I've got some things in mind, so I'm hoping it kind of, like, comes out right on paper, or in the game rather. But yeah, what we're doing is just kind of, I wanted to have this building kind of enclosed at first and just have people walk around it. But as I was kind of building the pathwork, I was like, why not have people be able to come into the building? So inside of the building, we actually will put in a restroom, and on the back, I believe we have a soda shop and a burger shop, and I think this is the first burger shop that we have in the park. And speaking of that, I've kind of gone through intermittently, and I've cut all of the kind of micromanaging out of the series, but we frequently have vendors just, like, quit, and it's usually because they end up not having a high workload, and for whatever reason, instead of just being quiet and taking their paychecks, these vendors just don't want to work here, which is like a very idealistic approach to the workforce, I guess. But B, it's just very annoying because as much as I can like overpay these employees, it doesn't seem to fix it. They just kind of get annoyed and leave regardless. But yeah, I cut that out because it's not that kind of series. This series is more of just like building something and being very creative in our builds here. And the management side is just never all that important, but it is something that I have to do just to keep guests, I guess, happy and walking around at certain areas of the park. But it's still, I don't know. I don't think I'm ever gonna play Planet Coaster in like a challenge sense. It's just not one of those games that I really want to do like a challenge mode on, because I love this game for what it is. And to me, it is a very, very, very awesome Planet Coaster theme park builder. And that's what we're doing, is we're just building these awesome structures. And if I had to do that with a budget, it'd just be so terrible. I'd be like 5 years in between builds and just trying to accumulate money. And to me, that's not fun. But I know some of you probably are out there who probably would find that fun. And I understand that it could be much more rewarding to do that kind of thing, where you have to actually earn the money and then take what you earn and then put it into the game. But it's just, I think, too tedious for me at this point. I really wish, and my original plan with the series was to go ahead and build a majority of this park and then open it up to actually like take it off sandbox and then just run the park and then expand with like the income that we got from the revenue of the park. Unfortunately, we can't do that just yet. I'm hoping eventually that gets put into the game and we will be able to do that, because I really feel like that could be really fun. And then just, you could always evolve the park further. So really, I think you could have a park and like a series for a very, very long time, like hundreds of episodes, if you just are constantly trying to improve the park and take old rides out and put new ones in. And to me, that's really cool, because you could sit through and watch like the entire history of the park and then see how tweaks and changes are made into like putting new rides in. And that's one of the things that I guess, like, if you watch a real park, like Cedar Point's a great example of this, because they're so limited on land. Like they're on an island, so to put new coasters in, they actually have to figure out like which coasters and which areas are going to need to be modified, and what like which coaster isn't doing so well and which coaster would people be okay with getting like removed from the park. And that kind of business management would be really cool. But I don't know, maybe we'll get that someday, but I'm not sure. But as I've been ranting, you've seen this kind of building come together here. It really wasn't anything super, super special, I think, in terms of like building. It's pretty standard for a build. I don't think we went super in depth with like detailing, but the path work is one thing that's kind of unique. And you're seeing me right now go ahead and put a kind of a ramp. And this was more or less just to kind of fill this area, because there was a very awkward space right between that flat ride and this building, where there was just like not enough room to put another ride in, and a little too much room to like fill out with just nature. So we do a lot of nature work, and we're getting into that right now. But I loved just having a little bit of a ramp here. So I guess in real parks and in the real world, just in general, you kind of have to get like different handicap accessible ways to get to certain things. And since this little area, or this little building, had only stairs, I figured the ramp would be great for strollers, wheelchairs, all that kind of stuff. And of course, none of that's in the game, but it would be kind of cool if they put at least strollers in, because then you could have guests like rent those out from like a little area, like those guest lockers that we had in the way, way earlier part of this series. Stuff like that would be great. And usually that's located way up at the front of the park, because that's where you're gonna get in and get settled in. That's kind of those like settle in kind of stalls, rental shops, or whatever you want to call them. But you get there and you're like, all right, we need a stroller for the kids, and we need to put our backpacks in. Well, I guess if you have a stroller, you can just have them in the stroller. But Yeah, just that kind of stuff where you just get in and do it right away, and then you really don't have to worry about it, and then put or bring stuff back later on when you're leaving the park. Anyway, I don't really know what I'm going for in that little rant there, but you're seeing me right now do a lot of the nature, and really, I think when we originally did this area around Gravity Mod, we went pretty overboard with like the trees, and I don't know, I think I'm kind of moving away from that vision, if you will, and trying to scale it back a little bit, just because I want to have the guests be really, I guess, able to see what we've done. And real parks, that is what they do. They try to get the guest experience in mind when they're building theming and all that kind of stuff. So before, we actually had a lot of trees kind of blocking Gravity Mod and blocking all of this really awesome like water area that we went and took so much time to put in. So yeah, removing some of those trees, I think, is going to be really beneficial to this area. Now, there is the flip side of that coin where trees can kind of, you can use them to kind of separate out little areas and create almost like biomes in a park, if you will. So toward the back of Gravity Mod, if you're looking at it from the park entrance, there's a lot of trees left, and we'll actually go through and do a lot of kind of foliage work, and that's kind of left in intentionally. I wanted that to kind of divide Gravity Mod from the go-karts, and even though the go-karts are kind of intertwined in like Gravity Mod's tracks, I kind of wanted to separate that out. And you'll notice that we actually use the terrain painter tool a lot in this area just to kind of separate, because we've had up until this point the race zone, if you will. We've had a lot of just normal dirt in the paths, or not in the paths, but off the paths. And everywhere else in the park so far has been grass or mulch or whatever. So to separate that out, we'll actually go through here and we'll go ahead and use some shrubbery and use that tree cover to just kind of create those own like unique sectors of the park. But before we get to that, we're actually moving some of these planters. And up until this point, they have been pretty much spaced out evenly. And we're kind of removing some of that spacing a little bit. And this goes back into what I was saying about across this path and tying that theming in with that structure that we just built. Some of that open space that we have, because we don't have those planters in there now, I'm planning on doing more of a plaza feel over there. So I hope that comes out. If you've played this game and you know anything about the path system, you'll know that it is very tedious, very annoying, and if you click the wrong thing, you could just have like major sections of the path just like delete itself. So we'll see what we can do with that area, but I do have really high hopes for that, and of course we're going to talk about that when we get back into the live portion, which is coming up quite quickly here. But right now all we're doing is kind of finishing out this little race zone theming, and luckily for me, this is probably the last time we're going to be using these tires and these flower arrangements. It's really cool. It's just really tedious. And I don't know. Some of you may not even think it's that cool. But yeah, we had to put those all down pretty much individually because copying the whole thing was kind of annoying. But we're pulling over some of the shrubbery that we had over in the main plaza area. And of course, playing the game just to make sure those trees don't actually interfere with the ride at all. But yeah, now is what I was talking about a little bit earlier, where I use these shrubs to kind of divide with nature, like just separate these parts of the park. Otherwise, we'd have that texture or that terrain texture just kind of end in the middle of nowhere. So using the shrubs is a really natural way to divide this out, and it ends up coming out, I think, pretty nice. Even though this is kind of the areas that no one's really going to notice unless you're on the ride. This is one of those areas that's really tucked back, and kind of contrary to what I was just saying about trying to get more open views. It's just because this area is kind of awkward in that like there are no paths back here, so you can do a little bit more of that kind of like nature work back here. So yeah, that's kind of all we've done throughout here. We're just working on a little bit more nature stuff, but we are about to get back into the live portion. Let's go ahead and check out what we've been doing. All right, guys, so this is what we were working on in the time lapse. So yes, this pretty much whole little section of the park, I would say, is pretty much done. I mean, there's nothing else we can fit in this area, and that is awesome. I'm actually really happy with how this all kind of came out. But yeah, let's kind of take a look at what's going on here. So actually, you know what? I guess we'll start back at the go-karts, which are now officially open. I don't remember if we did that in the last episode, but yes, the line, as some of you have predicted, is insane. Like, it's way out of the door, and there's really not a ton of people underneath here, but you know what? Whatever. I mean, people have to deal with it. That's fine. And I think one of the issues is that are there actually cars here that are not used? What is going on? Maybe the line wasn't full then. I don't know. But yeah, there is an issue with the go-karts where apparently they will actually go and the winner will do a victory lap. So the last lap will be done. Everybody else will stop, and the winner's like, I won, so I'm just going to keep going. And yeah, it's kind of an issue, but apparently that kind of wreaks havoc on your queue times and like just having people in line there. So it's a little unfortunate, but I guess there's nothing else we can do with it. But yeah, let's go ahead and move around here. I love how this plaza came out. And the Cedar Speedway sign, we may or may not actually replace that. I'm actually kind of okay with that sign, but we may do some sort of like video screens over here and here because we have those to work with. And I'm probably going to do that, and it should be interesting. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a learning curve, or learning experience, rather. But anyway, moving down here, you can see the little signage that we've put up here. The U-turn here is kind of important because there is a massive U-turn. And then over here, there's some squiggles, so I put this little squiggly line sign up there. And then one massive turn to the left, and that's pretty much all of the signage except for this, which is the Falling Rocks sign. And then I, of course, went ahead and put a falling rock structure. Well, not falling rock, but a rocky structure over the track. I really think this kind of adds a really interesting little thing to this area here. And yeah, I don't know. I really love this go-kart track, and I love how it winds through this like little nature area. And it kind of winds down through here and underneath Gravity Mod and then underneath it again. But the one thing I will say is that someone, I think, at one point had suggested that we put some sort of like safety rails up here. And I had toyed around with the idea, but I feel like the view here is really cool. And these little guardrails, I think, would be enough for, I guess, to keep go-karts on track. I actually used to work at not an amusement park, but like one of those little centers for like people to come over. There was like an arcade, and there were a couple like little flat ride type things, like those trampoline rides and batting cages, and there was a go-kart track, and I actually worked on the go-kart a few times in the operations department. And yeah, it's actually pretty fun. And I will say that this track would probably not work as like a real life track. Obviously, you probably would want to cage off over here. And honestly, I think if we got some like actual like chain link fencing, I could go ahead and put that in here. But I just don't feel like any of the fencing that we have in the game right now at this point would look great over here. But the thing about go-karts is that the master control panel, which is what this guy is doing, if we can kind of come in here and take a look, it's kind of like just a generic control panel for like a ride, I think, in this game. I actually never noticed the little key with the Planet Coaster key fab on it. That's kind of cool. But yeah, in real life, the coasters, or not the coasters, the go-karts actually have a control panel like that, and you can turn off individual go-karts. Like, they're all radio controlled. So first things first is, like, if somebody spins out, you can shut all of the go-karts down, and they'll all come to a stop. Like, their engines will just kind of shut off, and you'll have somebody run out onto the track and manually pull somebody around and correct their go-kart. Because go-karts, when they're racing like this, don't have, like, reverse on them. So, and you wouldn't want people reversing because it's super dangerous. But, yeah, you can also screw with people, like, if your friend got on the go-kart and you just wanted to, like, screw with him, you could basically turn his go-kart off just completely. But the big thing, we were actually told, like, if someone's being a dick, in lack of a better like term. If someone's like riding someone and like trying to spin them out, you can just shut them down. And it was always funny because they try to turn like into somebody and like spin them out, and you hit the button and their go-kart would just shut down, and they'd look around and they'd throw their arms up like, oh, what's going on? And you're like, dude, you know what's going on. I told you not to be a dick, and you're being a dick. But anyway, rant over. Let's move on down to more of what we were actually doing. You saw, maybe if you caught it, we put the same kind of, they're not feather flags, but they're giant banners on some big steel structures. We put the same ones over here, and I love how these look when you're just kind of like walking around this area. It really adds to this. Now, we didn't actually like skin this ride per se, where we have it like in a massive structure, but I felt like putting the racing barriers around it and then adding just these simple little flags added so much to this ride. It really ties it in with the theming, and up here you can actually see the checker pattern, and it really fit well, not only in the space, and like I said, it looks really awesome coming over the main path a little bit here, but it fit with the overall theming. I love it, and I never even planned that out. It just kind of happened to be like that. But since we put the banners, the banner stands over here, I had the same ones over here, and they were like the same height, and it just looked really strange. So I sunk these down just a little bit, and it really, without like changing anything major, it added to the dynamic of this area. It doesn't look like we just kind of got lazy and plopped the same thing around here. These have checker patterns, and they're also lower to the ground, which is really nice. But you'll notice in here we actually have the new engine, and that is from the DLC. Yes, we actually got some DLC, and it is in the game for you guys to purchase if you want, and of course I got them. And if I can actually find where they are, we have the Back to the Future, Knight Rider, and Munsters items in here, and I thought they were just gonna give us some simple things like some cars and that kind of stuff, but no, they actually gave us a lot of parts, like just broken apart cars and that kind of stuff. So instead, you could either place like the entire car down, or you can just go ahead and build your own, like from the ground up. You can just place doors and all that kind of stuff. So of course I found some of the like wheels, and we've diversified this area a little bit by putting a couple different wheels down here, and then we put the engine in the garage. So it really ties this area together. And you may remember when I originally put these in, we really didn't have all that much to put into the garage except for some oil barrels and some of the tires that we've already put a lot of around. And then I stretched and tried to at least put some signage in there. But now we have a couple different things. And to be honest, I was thinking about maybe putting like the DeLorean or the Knight Rider? Yeah, the Knight Rider car over here. Sorry, I didn't actually watch Knight Rider, so this is kind of awkward, but no, I was thinking of putting these in here, but the problem with that, as you can see, is it has no hit detection, and people just walk right through them. So if we want to do that, there's going to be some changes that need to be done, and I was thinking about maybe deleting some of the path work, but it was one of those issues where we just had, like, if I deleted this one little spot, all of this path work went away, which was great, and yeah, it just didn't work for us. But if we want to go ahead and do that, we're going to have to maybe do some theming across the street here. And I say street, but this is like the main path. And as of now, not a lot of people are over here. As of now, not a lot of people are just back here in general, just because there's really not much to do back here, at least. And when we end up going through and putting something on the other side of this, there will actually be things for people to do. So we actually have some plans for that, which were suggested in the comments, and that was to do one of the like Top Thrill Dragster type coasters, because there are actual like drag racing coaster cars on those, and I think that's a great idea. We're gonna do that, but I wanted to kind of lay off of that just because I didn't want to do the biggest, tallest coaster we can right away. I wanted to kind of do something else, or fill the park out a little bit more before we get the biggest, baddest coaster we can. So we're holding off on that, but that area is reserved for that. And was that just a pigeon sitting on the ledge of this building? Wow, I didn't actually know that birds could do that. That's really cool. But anyway, yeah, we're over here at the building that is kind of out of place, and I've said it throughout the time lapse. It's kind of weird. It's just like this big wooden building in the middle of like these very, very modern steel and modern material like rides, I guess. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting because we're gonna tie that into across this main path, and that was one of the things. While I was building this, I was just kind of going with the flow, and I was like, you know what, these pieces look good. I kind of want to use this one and these stone and these modern building or windows, and then I like stepped back and I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't fit at all into the theming around here. But I had a plan later on to kind of build this out into like a more of a plaza. So this has been a very straight and narrow path, if you will, all the way from the entrance back to here. So I'm thinking we'll do some sort of like plaza work around here. Hopefully it turns out well, but hopefully it's gonna be really nice. But yeah, guys, I really love how everybody can kind of come over here, not only grab some food, but also have this really, really awesome view of Gravity Mod. Look at that. It almost makes like an infinity symbol here. Oh man, the track looks so good, and you get such a great view of the cars going down, and you also get to see this feature that you couldn't really see from anywhere besides like that little runoff path there to the first aid station. But yeah, this little waterfall, or not waterfall, but little water fountain kind of area over here. So nice. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with how this kind of came out. Apart from it not really fitting any of the theming around here. Across from here, I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do over here. And for the longest time, I was debating maybe we'll just put flat ride in here, tie it all together with some path work. That'll be fine. But the more I look at this, the more I feel like we could have a really cool roller coaster right here, and something that kind of fills out kind of this space a little bit and then comes back and does some really cool stuff in here. So it'll be kind of like on display from the entrance, and I really feel like we could do some really cool stuff and then have the entrance or the station of that coaster kind of have the same influence and same materials in it as this building. So hopefully we'll tie that all together. But yeah, that's pretty much all we've done in this little time lapse here. I say little, there was actually a lot we got done. We finished a whole corner of this area, which is really awesome. But yeah, moving on into the next episode, I'm thinking we'll either maybe start this coaster over here, or I don't know, because I was planning on doing some of the billboard things. Maybe we'll do a billboard kind of, we'll start to do some of that, video billboards and custom images, because we have the Cedar Flags like real logo that I designed. We'll have to put that in, take the old sign down, which I know maybe some of you, I don't know if any of you are attached to this sign at all, but it's going to look a lot better with the actual logo on there, and maybe we can retrofit it on there. I'm not really sure of that, but we'll check that out in the next episode, guys. I'm sorry for the extreme layoff in the content. So glad you guys are back and enjoying the channel again. I'm looking forward to getting back into it because this park's coming together so well. But yeah, guys, until next time, make sure you give that thumbs up button a push, and I will see you back here in Cedar Flags.